results of OSUN election and 2019. I have Osage Godsent Erunse with me, the public affairs analyst. Thank you for coming.
Good morning, Phil. Good morning, viewers. My pleasure again. Thank you.
Yeah, you've been following the trend, what has been happening in OSUN, and we always use OSUN as a mirror, looking at what is happening so far. But can you say that the build-up in OSUN election meets the tenets of democracy?
First of all, let me say it's too early to conclude on that for some reasons which I'll give. Then again, OSUN election is very sensitive and strategic because this election is very close to the main election, which all Nigerians are looking forward to. I mean the presidential election.
Yes.
Okay. I would say that it's sad to say that at this time there are still some irregularities that we still observe in our electionary process. And all of these things keeps on repeating themselves. One of the biggest problems we have as public analysts is that we don't learn from the past as a country. We tend to keep on recycling the same errors. There are a number of issues. For example, INEC as the electoral umpire have already placed itself in a situation where INEC as it stands now is already a suspect. Because, of course, there are different views about the development in the OSUN election, okay? But some of these experiences in this election are the same issue we have always been experiencing. There is still the issue of card reader problem. That's one of the reasons why this election was cancelled in some polling units. Okay, now we have been addressing card reader problem for over the years. Don't we learn? Does it mean that all the card readers that we import or we get from wherever we get them from are fake? They can't stand the weather? Now that's an issue.
But it's a process. Learning is a process.
How long, Phil?
Can we say that we can never stop learning?
No, we can't say we can never stop learning. But it's only a fool.
So looking at that,
listen, a wise man learns from his past mistake. How long have we been conducting election with card reader? I mean, it's been for a good enough years for the stakeholders in the INEC sector to have been able to sit down and ask themselves some questions. There was a time I did research about this. I don't know if it's Ghana or one of the African countries close to us. They conducted a presidential election with the same card reader. No one failed. I did research about that. One of these African countries around us. No one of the card reader failed. Now, what I'm trying to say is that the development in OSUN election is already arousing a lot of suspicion. Apart from the card reader, there were situations of misbehavior by ad hoc staff. Okay, there was a situation where materials were being turned by ad hoc staff. There is a report that one of the ad hoc staff abandoned duty. Okay, then if we want to come down to the issue of inconclusiveness, you know, the opposition party, or rather the party that is currently leading, is taking a case on that just this morning. They are already filing a court case. All right, now all of these issues, my problem is that the same issues that our electionary process have been having over the years is still reoccurring again and again. The only credit we can give to this election to some extent is that there was a reduction in vote buying.
In vote buying?
Yes. There was
which makes the strategy deployed by INEC laudable?
INEC laudable. It's laudable because there was a reduction in vote buying. Reduction, I said.
What about violence?
Okay, but of course there was violence in some quarters. That's the reason why some election could not hold. There were some situations of course it wasn't as massive as some other states we've been hearing, but there was violence. But what do you expect? For an election in one state where you deployed over 18,000 security personnel, you know, so everywhere is really tight security-wise. But my concern is this: what about the 2019 election, where you may not have to deploy over 18,000 security personnel to one state? What happens? Okay, like I said, the OSUN election, although
so you mean there could be a lack in manpower?
There will be a problem of security. Okay, now that will give room to violence. If you have to deploy over 15 or 18,000 to a certain state for one election, what about when you are going to mount the entire country? You know, so there are a lot of issues, issues to unravel about the election, because again, there is the argument about the inconclusiveness. Some I've listened to some lawyers arguing that on phone. Some are against, some are for. Some have said that INEC guidelines, rules, does not supersede the Constitution. Although I'm not a lawyer, but some have claimed that you cannot cancel a polling unit where an election actually took place, because according to some of the views, that the election as inconclusiveness does not prevent INEC from returning the candidate that is actually leading. Okay.
But remember, this happened before in Kogi State in 2015.
Yes.
Where the late Audu Abubakar had a margin, who was of APC, had a margin over that of the PDP counterpart with about 41,353.
Yeah.
And looking at that election was also inconclusive, because the number of votes cancelled were up to 49,953. So it's not as if it's just happening.
Okay.
It happened before.
Was it returned?
It happened before. What I'm saying that it happened before, and the APC didn't cry out.
All right.
So why should the other party cry out?
Let me say this. I don't have anything against the APC. Okay. I'm neutral when it comes to public issues. But let me take it on from this angle. Are you telling me that it is right to repeat something that is anti-constitution? Is it about whether the APC cried out then, or is it about our constitution? We brought the APC into power on the ground of accountability, credibility, and the rule of law. And that's the reason why I will never stop talking about the late Yaradua. You know, he was popularly known as Mr. Rule of Law. He said in his own time that he knows that the election that brought him into power were flawed. And because of that, he upheld the rule of law. Now, if there was problem with Kogi State, are you justifying that APC should follow the same tune for a party that they keep on attacking and criticizing, even irrespective of the stance of the Constitution? I beg to differ. Okay? Because what I think is that if the APC is saying this is how it was done because it was done in Kogi State, against the argument of the Constitution, then we really have a lot of questions to ask ourselves.
Well, I think
are we really progressive?
I think it means, because from what we're seeing, definitely litigation is in court. And in court, the books will be opened.
Yes.
And so we'll get to see that. So let's leave that aspect that has to do with litigations. Because both of us are not custodians of the law to tackle that. But let's look at the security personnel you just made mention of. Now, what gives you, are you of the impression that it may not be possible to have adequate security personnel to man polling units come 2019?
Yes.
Based on what we just saw in
Of course, because the numbers of the
don't forget, we don't just have
the policemen. Okay, you have the
we have the NSCDC.
Okay, you also have the what do you call the civil defense,
the Peace
and
Corps.
The Peace Corps.
Yes, and
put
the military.
Put all of this together.
Would you want to bring that in?
Yeah, you have a point. Should they want to bring in the military? Because there's also a lot of talks about that. Some political people have the opinion that the military doesn't have to come in. But anyway, whichever, even if all the various security agencies are brought into the picture,
there will still be
lacuna, there will still be lapses.
Personnel,
You are still not going to have over 15,000 security personnel in one state. My worry is for the integrity of this country.
Okay, but again, don't you also look at the attitude of politicians? Because if really politicians can really be in orderly manner, there wouldn't be need to call for much of security personnel. So what's your advice in that direction?
Yes, before I give my advice, do you know in was it Botswana, one of the countries just close to us, you know, an election was going on. It was like a normal day life.
Yes.
The security were not everywhere. In fact, we even learned from reports that some of the even electoral officers were taking bikes and all, as they were so free.
Everything went unhindered.
Unhindered.
Seamlessly.
There was no serious security, you know, stuff and all of that. Now, what I see in it is that there are a lot of politicians that are over desperate. Okay? And one of the things I want to say is that the fact that you have a party at the helm of affair at the national doesn't mean you must get all the states, no matter what it costs you. We must call a spade a spade. Our politicians are killing us in this country.
Not our politicians.
On the
some politicians, don't forget that.
See,
because we can't generalize.
When you have over 80%, 90%, what do you have to say? Who is free, really? You know, I know politics is a game of self-interest, but when self-interest overrides the interest of the commoner, it becomes barbaric and it become wickedness. It become, wickedly.
That's why we have the Nigerian leadership to tackle this, which so far has been kept, been curtailed.
All right.
Yes, in terms of security checks.
How well has it been? How long well has it been curtailed? We don't have all the time, but let's not go into analysis. Okay? Because when you say something has been curtailed, we have to look at the facts. We have to look at the proofs, judging from what has happened in the past till now. Okay, what have been the experiences? Is it Port Harcourt election that was also marred with violence, the recent GS assembly or something? And what have you? The Ekiti saga that is everywhere. I think it's the courting date. Okay, we have to look at the facts behind it. When you say something has been curtailed, to what extent? It's like you saying corruption has been curtailed. To what extent? Okay, so what we are trying to say is we are Nigerians. And we must, I want to say to the average Nigerian out there, that it is about time we begin to put the majority, let me borrow from your words, of our political class on check. Because they will blow up this country and the next minute they'll be out of the country.
And that is exactly what we are saying will not happen, because that's the whole essence of this program. Because if we go all along to ensure that we stop all of these issues from happening, it will go a long way to also savage the society. And now we have a government, and though you may say that there are issues that the government is still grappling with, but comparatively, you can say we've fared poorly.
That is relative. That is a very serious, critical discussion, because I may not share in your view on that. Now, when you say we have not done poorly,
now let's look at INEC, for instance. Let's look at the preparations that INEC has made so far. You may mention of the card reader. I know definitely there will be some challenges in that, but can't you still, to some extent, give it to INEC in terms of what it has done so far in OSUN election?
The reason why I may not give it to INEC is because INEC has made all kind of promise on earth. Okay, over time, the kind of election they promise Nigerians is not exactly what we are seeing.
You don't also think that why this is not happening is because of the Nigerian factor that also boils down to the followers?
Now, Philip, get this clear. There is no government in the world that doesn't have issues. Okay, but what we are looking at in the Nigeria context is the issue of the independence of our electoral umpires, the INEC, so to speak. All right? Now, event upon event give the ordinary Nigeria reasons to suspect INEC more. Okay, because the issues are there. All right? We don't expect INEC to be perfect overnight. But if you look at all the promises on earth, with what is going on in OSUN, OSUN is going to be another issue. I bet you by Thursday.
Yes. What are your expectations in that line?
It's critical when you ask me what are my expectations, because the truth is I know both political parties, the major political parties, are fighting their way and lobbying. But what I am expecting is that the INEC commissioner in that state should be able to give Nigerians credibility to prove that INEC has the capacity, because it's about INEC. It's not about PDP or APC.
Okay, so election is a litmus test. The rerun is also a litmus test.
It's the test for 2019. Okay. Because what happens on Thursday is going to raise a lot of eyebrow. And like I just told you, just this morning, PDP is already making plans to head for court.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so what I mean is that the onus lies on the INEC officials. I don't want to talk about the political parties, because obviously they are lobbying to make sure, things go this one, things go that way. But we must make our electoral officer truly independent.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. God sent Jose for making out time to be with me on this. But we must make our electoral system to be truly independent. Thank you. So that's a punch line.
Not just in words, but in practice.
In practice. All right. Thank you. Well, that's where we call it a wrap on this segment.